I think it's very important to consider the fact that there's supposed to be a checklist for operating, starting, shutting down every aircraft. That should be in there. It needs to be in there. It's required to be in there. And every time you get in the aircraft, don't assume you know the checklist A to Z.
I'm John.
I'm Jeff.
And this is Keep Those Props Turning. Perspectives and insights to keep you flying, not grounded.
Jeff, on operations, when I'm operating my aircraft, what are some of the things I need to take into account and remember and refresh my brain on as I'm going out to go fly today? Where's a good place to start?
Well, for me as a pilot that fly a number of different planes, I always tell people, pull that checklist out first and review it on not only all the starting procedures, taxiing, takeoff, but normal operating of that engine. You know, when you're in flight, what are the best cruise settings, things like that. And just from a startup, once you get the engine started, lean it back a little bit. We've come to a point in flying now. We never used to do that as pilots. Nowadays, we've found that it's best to lean that mixture out when you're just taxiing. It avoids a lot of carbon buildup on the spark plugs, things like that. It's fuel you don't need to be burning. But you've got to remember, follow the checklist, because one of the things in the checklist before you take off is mixtures full rich. I catch a lot of people, and I have to admit, I've done it myself, where you take off and you start noticing high cylinder temperatures, and you're like, oh, crap. I got to put the mixture forward. I'm running too lean.
And it can be very serious. I mean, obviously you can cook your cylinders. You can wind up with the engine stalling out. There's a number of things that happen.
Right. And from experience, it builds up heat very quickly. You'll run over 400 before you know it in some airplanes. So it's important to follow the checklist and follow the procedures.
Well, and on checklists, I think it's very important to consider the fact that there's supposed to be a checklist for operating, starting, shutting down every aircraft. That should be in there. It needs to be in there. It's required to be in there. And every time you get in the aircraft, don't assume you know the checklist A to Z. You should pull it out and either with somebody that's traveling with you, go through it one by one, check off the items that are on there, or you go through them, but don't jump ahead. Skipping things, there's a reason it's on that checklist.
That's right.
Something has happened or something is critical to the next or future steps that have to be covered. The issue with the checklists are people tend to jump ahead, or particularly at the end of the flight, it's like, well, I'm just going to shut down. And that even comes into when you're first starting the engine. You don't want to sit there and run the engine at high RPMs. You want to follow the checklist. You want to work it the way they tell you to do it for safety, but also to minimize damage to the engine.
That's right.
Shock cooling. I have people all the time, oh, well, we're down, we're on the ground, we're parked. Let's just go ahead and shut the engine down. Well, there's consequences to that.
That's right. Yeah. I mean, checklists, you could go through all phases of flight because people don't follow checklists. Look at how many gear-up landings there are, and that could have been simply eliminated if you'd have just done a GUMPS check, as simple as that checklist is. But the same thing applies to engines. With engines, it's never a good idea to do anything really fast. Always move controls slower, just methodically. That's the best way you can take care of your engine. And like you said, John, you get down on the ground, you're not really done yet. Let the plane idle for a little bit, especially if you've got a turbocharger. You definitely have to let the turbo cool down. Otherwise, it's just going to cause further problems. So don't be in a hurry. That's the biggest thing I see. Pilots are in a hurry to get up in the air, and they're in a hurry to shut it down and get out of the plane. So just take a breath, go back to your checklist, let things happen for a bit, and when you're comfortable, then either take off or shut the engine down.
And don't cut corners.
That's right. That's right.
That's when the mistakes happen. That's when bad things happen.
That's right. Cutting corners and being in a hurry. That's where most of the errors I see happen. So
and if you're taking off and your CHTs start to rise, your EGTs rise, your oil temp rises, best thing to do is level off, pull back power a little bit, see what's going on, see if that takes care of it, because it could be just your outside air temperature, it could be the fuel, it could be a number of different things affecting it. But don't just press on to get to 2,000, 5,000 feet with everything starting to elevate as far as temperatures go.
That's right. You make a good point. As a pilot, you should be monitoring that engine, not just the flying indicators, instruments. You need to be watching that engine too. And I'm a hawk about that, especially on takeoffs. You want to make sure everything's right as you're climbing up. And as John says, if things start building up or you have pressure issues or temperature issues, level off, bring the power back, and assess what's going on. Like I said, high cylinder temps could be just a simple case of, I forgot to put the mixture forward.
Yeah.
But, at the same time, you got to decide, do I need to come back to the airport? So level off, and you're in a best case scenario if you're level, not climbing, if that engine were to fail. So,
Well, and pilots oftentimes, if you're in a controlled airspace, they'll say, okay, well, we're planning on taking off and going to X altitude. If you start to take off and now you're seeing higher CHTs, higher oil temperatures, don't be afraid to communicate with the tower or whoever's controlling that airspace. Hey, we're going to have to level off because we're starting to get elevated, whatever. You're not declaring an emergency, but you're letting them know that you're concerned about something.
Yeah, I've got some engine issues.
See if,
I'm going to investigate these.
Right.
And they'll give you airspace or whatever you need at that point.